What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so I kind of felt like we should do a full story video. As you all know, full story videos on my channel is where I take a bunch of older videos and combine them together into one big video. And I kind of felt like we should do that again when it comes to DC Dark Knights of Steel. And here's the reason why, because for me personally, I really did love this series a lot, but also it was DC saying, hey, what if our heroes had appeared in medieval time? It was a very interesting take done by DC Comics. And so they brought in Tom Taylor, who gave us a 12-part miniseries, which for me personally was actually great. Now, I do know there are some things fans did not like, but hey, those things right there are really minor. But for me, the overall story was kind of cool. And so I kind of felt like we should do a full story video over this series. So I do hope you enjoy DC Dark Knights of Steel. Okay, so with us being able to wrap up our coverage over the Batman Nightfall trilogy, I had decided that we should go ahead and cover some smaller events or smaller storylines that DC had given us in the past, because when it came to Batman Nightfall trilogy, it was like 84 issues that we had covered for a good few months. I want to kind of go ahead and cover some smaller storylines that you guys may still enjoy. Like, for example, Dark Knights of Steel. Now, Dark Knights of Steel is more of like a reimagining of our heroes in a separate universe in medieval time. And honestly, it was a great idea. Now, if you have been following my channel for a couple of years now, you would remember that I was really hyped in the early days of this series. The problem was that I had basically dropped the series by like issue 4, 5, or possibly 6. And here's the reason why. It's nothing really bad about the book. It's more about me. Because when the series was coming out, I had a lot of different books that had piqued my interest, new and old. And so unfortunately, when it comes to my mind, I kind of forget what I was reading when I dive into another book. And so unfortunately, I had completely forgotten about this series until recently. One of my friends said, yo, man, I am reading Dark Knights of Steel, and honestly, it is amazing. And he's also currently reading the sequel series as well that focuses more on Deathstroke in this reality. And I'm kind of like, man, if that friend right there, who's not really a big time comic book reader, is honestly enjoying this series, I told myself I should go ahead and get back into the series once again and try to finish it this time. And so for the next couple videos, when it comes to DC, we're going to focus on this and also a different series as well that I have planned for the channel. And so as we get into the opening pages of the storyline, we do pick up with the origin of Superman. Now, at first, you would think like, okay, cool. With this origin is the whole idea that Kal-El was sent away from Krypton and was sent over to Earth as a way to save his life. And technically, you're half right there. Like, yes, he did come to Earth to save his life, but he did not come alone. He was not sent away. He got on a rocket alongside with his Kryptonian parents. Yes, you heard that right. The entire family was able to leave Krypton behind to come over to Earth. Now remember, this storyline does take place in medieval time. And the reason why I'm trying to make sure you remember that is because when they do arrive on Earth, they are quickly surrounded by a bunch of guards of this kingdom. Now, we're not really told who this kingdom belongs to or what this kingdom is. But either way, for Jor-El, all he wants right now is to get some help for his wife, who's giving birth to Kal-El, Superman. But the problem is, these people are really afraid of Jor-El. The man just fell out of the sky in some kind of aircraft inside the kingdom, and right now acting completely and also dressed completely different from them. But here's the thing, with Jor-El now being on Earth with the yellow sun, of course, his powers activate. And so his heat vision kills all of them off in a matter of seconds. But at least he was able to protect his family, his wife, and his brand new born son. But now we have to jump over to the Kingdom of Storms. Now, when we do, we pick up with Black Lightning because this is his kingdom. But when we do pick up with him, it's him right now with Constantine. Now, you have young Constantine right now giving us a prophecy of something big coming down the road. And he says, they have stepped onto our world from theirs. The green man waits, fire and blood. Gods are born, gods are killed. Castle crumble, people tear as easily as parchment, swifter than a crossbow bolt, more powerful than castle walls, soaring over moats and fortification. Look up in the sky. And then he stops. And you have Black Lightning as Constantine. What did you see? And he says, the end, our end. But now we have to pick up in the present day, 19 years later, and we pick up with this reality's version of Superman and Batman. Now, we learn very quickly here that Superman is the prince because this is now the kingdom of El, the castle of El. But either way, when it comes to young Superman being the prince of this castle, Batman is his knight. Like he is their main protector of the entire royal family. But apparently for Batman, he's about to leave on a mission to go after a banshee. Now, for Kal-El, he wants to go with Bruce, but Bruce says no because again, they're going up against someone with the powers of magic. They don't know how they could work on Kal-El. He could be easily taken down. Now, for Kal-El, it's kind of like, dude, you're just a regular human being. If you're afraid that their magic could hurt me, then no offense, their magic can most definitely hurt you. But either way, you have Bruce say, no, you're the prince, stay here, and you have Bruce and Alfred leave to go deal with this banshee. Now, we do pick up with Batman and Alfred going over to a nearby village. Now, when they do arrive at this nearby village, we're also learning that the Robins of this reality are kind of like Batman scouts, where he needs to be used as a way to collect info on the different people that he's going after, or to kind of figure out what could be happening in that area that could throw Batman off. And we do learn that it's 4 Robins: Duke, Richards, Jason, and also Stephanie. So no Tim and no Damien for the time being, but they were able to collect enough info to locate the banshee inside the village. Now, once you have Bruce being able to confront this banshee, we kind of find out that it's this reality's version of Black Canary, but also she calls Batman the Bat Prince, which means there was a point in time where Bruce Wayne was a prince of this supposed kingdom. Now, when it comes to Black Canary, she goes ahead and uses her sonic scream. Now, when she does, we're kind of left to believe that in this reality, with that kind of power, Batman should be dead, like completely gone. But apparently, Batman was able to kind of stay together, not get blown away by her power. And luckily for Batman, Kal-El was nearby to close her mouth and to knock her out. But again, how powerful she is in this reality, Batman should be dead, but he's not. And the question is right now, why isn't he not dead? But once you have everyone being able to get back over to the kingdom, you have Kal-El explain that it was him who had decided to join Bruce Wayne on that mission. Now, for Jor-El and Lara, they're very upset about the idea their son went on that mission. And the reason why, because we kind of find out that in the dungeon underneath the castle, you have different people locked up, different people who have powers. Now, of course, in this time period, if you have some kind of power, it has to be magic based, and that's not cool. But at the same time, though, it's kind of like their powers could possibly kill off the entire royal family. Now, we also learn here that for this kingdom, Jor-El and Laurel were not the original kings and queens of this kingdom. it was actually Bruce Wayne's family. Now, we're not really told what happened to them and also how in the world Jor-El and Jor-El were able to take over where the Waynes had left off at. But again, we do learn a lot here about this reality. But this is where things begin to go downhill very fast because we do pick up with Jor-El and also Bruce Wayne having a conversation because for Bruce Wayne, he does not understand why in the world where he was able to withstand the attack of Black Canary, that he should be officially dead or his body be completely broken and also dead still. But you didn't have Bruce Wayne believe that he is cursed. Now, we do see that Jor-El does have something very important to say. But before we are able to see what he was going to say to Bruce, we jump over to a nearby forest and we pick up with Oliver Queen. And this man right here is going to be the assassin because you have a Green Lantern being able to power up the arrow that Green Arrow is going to use. And so when he does shoot that arrow, we already know who his target is going to be. But to close on the first chapter of the storyline, you didn't have Jor-El explain why the Waynes and also the Elves were very close, mainly because of Bruce. And we kind of find out that Bruce Wayne is the son of Jor-El in this reality, which also means that he is the half-brother to Kal-El. But then, out of nowhere, that Green Arrow that Oliver Queen had shot earlier hits Jor-El right in the eye, basically killing him off, just like that. And so with the death of Jor-El, you have Bruce Wayne freak out. Now, when it comes to Bruce Wayne, when he does freak out, this is where he releases his heat vision to kind of show us like, yes, Jor-El is his father. But either way, with his loud scream, you have everyone else in the kingdom wondering what exactly just went down. They run outside to find Jor-El dead. But for Bruce, he gotta go. And so he jumps off the castle and goes on his horse to go into the forest. And the reason why, because he knows who had killed off Jor-El. It was Green Arrow. And it's kind of cool here because you have Alfred come with him and you have Green Arrow try to shoot an arrow at Alfred and you have Bruce being able to grab that arrow, break it, jump off the horse and just attack Oliver just like that, cutting off his arm as well. But you have Batman say, oh no, we are going to get answers from you because we are not able to get answers from a dead man. But now we pick up with Constantine. And when we do, it's Constantine meeting up with the Green Man, the one who had used the Green Lantern ring with the arrow. And apparently it was them two working together to make that plan. But the plan worked. Now you have Constantine wondering, where is Oliver? And you have the Green Man said, the ring told me to leave him behind, so I did. Getting back over to Black Lightning, we see him right now with all his children outside the castle, just showing off their different abilities. Now, in this reality, he has 2 daughters and a son. Now, his son is going to play a very important role in today's video, but also later chapters down the road when it comes to this storyline. But you didn't have Black Lightning be confronted by Constantine to talk about what exactly went down when it came to Jor-El. And really, this conversation kind of ties back into the prophecy because you had Constantine say, do you really think that what you did might not lead into what I saw many years ago? But for Black Lightning, it's more of like, listen, there have been many different magic users in their kingdom that have just disappeared. Now, we already know that apparently there is some kind of dungeon underneath the castle of El. But either way, is Black Lightning saying he's going to do his best to protect his kingdom, but also his children as well. But getting back over to the castle of El, we kind of find out that their general is Waller, which honestly kind of makes sense. But either way, she wants to go to war. She's all like, hey, listen, we already know it was Jefferson who had killed off our king. So why not go ahead and go to war? Here's the thing, though. They don't have any proof. And so right now, their main goal is to get that proof. Now, you do have Harley Quinn there as well as the Jester, but you do have her kind of ask Bruce, what he thinks they should do. Now, Kal-El is so fast. He said, no, this is family business. Bruce has nothing to say about family business at all, to kind of show that Jor-El knew that Bruce is his son and possibly Laura, but not Kal-El. But either way, it's Kal-El saying, I want to go ahead and have a conversation with our prisoner, the Green Arrow, once he's awake again. But now we have to pick up with Lois Lane. Now, when we do, it's Lois Lane going over to the Amazon island, and we see her picking up with Hippolyta, but she came here to deliver a message. Now, we already know that message is about Jor-El, his death, but it's not really for Hippolyta. It's not really for Diana. It's for somebody else, and that would be Zala Jor-El, the sister to Kal-El and also the sister to Bruce, the youngest, or not youngest child, the middle child for Jor-El. But either way, this is the Supergirl of this reality. And so we kind of find out that one, she's in a relationship with Diana, but two, is her finding out that her father had just been killed off. Now, she plays a very important role when it comes to today's video because once she finds out that her father is dead, she kisses Diana goodbye and flies away to deal with something else. But now it's time for Kal-El to have that conversation with Oliver. Now he tells Bruce and Harley to get the heck out of there. Now Bruce says, nah, I'm not going nowhere. Matter of fact, you should not do this. But it's Kal-El saying, first off, get out of the way. This is my kingdom, not yours anymore. And two, I didn't ask. I'm telling you to get the heck out. Now, once you have Bruce and Harley leave, it's really more of Harley telling Bruce that he should try to help her to stop the Els before they go to war with Jefferson, because in this kingdom alone, they also had heard the prophecy. And so she's kind of wondering, like, what if the death of Jor-El could just push them even farther to become people who go to war with the other kingdom? Like, we have to stop that. You must help me. But for Bruce, he wants to believe in the possibility that will not happen at all. But the question is right now, does he truly believe that? Now, when it comes to Kal-El's meeting with Green Arrow, it goes south pretty fast, but then kind of like it evens out at the end, because you do have Kal-El saying like, you killed my father, a good man. But for Green Arrow, he's all like, your father was not a good man at all. And matter of fact, your father, your mother, your entire family, basically, dude, you are all monsters. Like, no, you have no idea what you guys have done. But you didn't have Green Arrow say, go ahead and just kill me off. But you have Kal-El say, we are not like that at all. I am not going to kill you to show that we are not monsters at all. So even though this man had lost his father, he is not going to cross that line for right now. But now we have to close on the second chapter. And when we do, we pick up with Jefferson once again. Now, you have Pierce getting up because he hears a noise. And at first, he thought it was one of his daughters. But then he realized it's coming from his son's room. When he runs over there, hey, it's her again. It's Supergirl. And she has his son because she just knows that it was this man who plotted to kill her father. And so for her, she must take somebody close to him. And so you have her grab his son, and you have Pierce trying his best to use his powers against her. It doesn't matter. One, to her, it tickled. And two, she dropped his son, killing him then and there. And so now it's all like, yeah, there's a war now between the two kingdoms. And the question is right now, who else is going to die in this war? And so as we get into the third chapter of the storyline, we now pick up with something falling out of the sky. And with this falling out of the sky, it's kind of like, okay, this could possibly change things when it comes to the war coming down the road between the two kingdoms. And really, when it comes to the Castle of Els, they heard that something had fallen out of the sky. But where it had fallen is kind of like the middle grounds, where almost any kingdoms has the right to possess the item that had fallen out of the sky. And so you have the Els say, you know what? Go ahead, Batman. Go out there and see what in the world had possibly fallen out of the sky. And the elves were right to be concerned because we pick up with the metal men. And the metal men come from a different kingdom, better known as the Kingdom of Magnus. Now, when they do arrive at the location for the item, unfortunately, they are confronted by Supergirl. And you have Supergirl just go ahead and kill all of them. And guys, when I say she kills all of them, I mean she makes sure there's no way that any of them will have the ability to walk away from their battle. Like everyone is just killed. But now we have to jump over to Amazon Island. And once again, we pick up with Hippolyta. Except this time, it's Hippolyta getting word that Jefferson, King Jefferson, is on his way over to their kingdom to have a conversation about the death of his son. Now, for Lois, she does not tell Hippolyta who was the one who had killed off Jefferson's son, except she will find out very soon. And so once he does arrive, we do learn that he's not allowed to be on the island. And the most likely reason why, because, well, he's a man. And so you have Hippolyta go on his boat to have this conversation alongside with Lois Lane, Constantine, and also Diana, Wonder Woman. And this conversation kind of dives into the whole idea that a war is coming very soon. And the reason why I'm saying that because you have Jefferson tell Hippolyta like, hey, my son was killed off and my son died by Supergirl. Now that is a huge problem. Not just because his son was killed off by Supergirl, because Diana, Wonder Woman, is dating Supergirl in this reality. So to hear the idea that her girlfriend had just killed somebody off, she can't believe it. But in reality, she has to because this man watched her girlfriend kill off his son. Now, you also have Jefferson asking Hippolyta if a war does start with the elves, will she be on his side? And of course, she says yes. And the reason why, because their two kingdoms have always worked together. They always have been allies. So no matter what, they're going to work together to fight against the elves. And for Diana, she hates the idea that now her people might fight against the people of her girlfriend. And so she flies away to warn her girlfriend what is coming down the road. But after that conversation, you have Constantine and Jefferson trying to go back home to their kingdom. The problem is that while they are trying to go back home to their kingdom, well, they are confronted by Supergirl. Now, this time, Supergirl is not trying to kill somebody close to Jefferson. Her goal is to go ahead and kill off Jefferson here and now. And the reason why, because she knows that he had a meeting with Hippolyta. And with that meeting, that for sure says a war is coming very soon against her people. So her goal is to go ahead and kill off the king here and now. Now, it also seems like she hates the idea that there are kings in this world at all because she says no more kings. But either way, she does kill off Jefferson just like that. Bam, he is dead. But he says to Constantine, my daughter, she's now the queen of the kingdom of storms. You must get her ready for the war to come. Now, to close on today's video, we do pick up with, well, Bruce and Alfred as they arrive at the location of what had fallen out of the sky, except when they do arrive at the location, they find the dead bodies of all the metal men. Now, they have no idea who had killed off the metal men, but they also find a piece of kryptonite. Now, of course, we had just learned that Bruce is half Kryptonian, and so that piece of kryptonite, it begins to affect him. Now, Alfred is able to get rid of that piece, but it's also Bruce telling Alfred that he had just learned something very important about his origin. But it's also Alfred saying like, actually, I already know the big secret about you. Like, let me go ahead and tell you your actual origin story. But that'll be saved for the next video. And so with that being said, okay, so it's time for us to go ahead and get back into our coverage over Dark Knights of Steel. Now, guys, let me say that this story is Amazing. It is truly a beautiful story. Now, before we dive into today's storyline, there are a couple things I do want to say before we dive into the opening pages. The first is that I'm still sick, so unfortunately, I may sound a tad bit off. If I do, please forgive me. I'm trying my best to recover. Now, technically, I do feel better, but you know how it is when you're sick. You might have some good days and you might have some bad days. So, today is a good day, and I'm hoping tomorrow will also be a good day as well. Now, with that being said, the second thing is that when it comes to our coverage over this storyline, each video should cover at least 3 issues, except part 3. And here's the reason why. Because part 3 is a special issue. It came out before issue number 7 did. And I kind of want to cover that issue alone. But then the last 2 videos should, again, go with 3 issues each to wrap up our coverage over this entire storyline. And so as we get into the opening pages of the 4th chapter of this storyline, we do pick up where our last video had left off at, beginning to learn the origin of Bruce Wayne in this reality, because we had learned that Bruce Wayne is actually the son of Jor-El, meaning that he is the half-brother to Kal-El in this reality. Now, on top of that, we also learned that originally the Waynes were the leader of the kingdom, but somehow the elves became the ruler of the kingdom. And we have no idea what exactly went down. Now, at the end of our last video, Alfred and Bruce found a piece of kryptonite. And when they did, of course, it did affect Bruce because he is half Kryptonian. Now, Alfred was able to contain the kryptonite, but now is Alfred saying, let me explain what went down between your actual father, Jor-El, and of course, your mother, Martha Wayne. And so this begins a flashback. Now, with this flashback, it does pick up right after you had the elves arrived on Earth, Jor-El and Lara. Now, when they had arrived, their main goal was to stay hidden from the rest of the world, to protect themselves, but to also protect their baby, Kal-El. Now, with that being said, while they were hidden, they were able to learn everything about the Earth from the people around them. Now, they had landed in the kingdom of the Waynes, but either way, while being there, they learned the language, they learned the culture of the people around them. But again, they stayed hidden, and everything was going great for them until the earth began to shake. Now, for Jor-El, he believed that this was going to be another Krypton situation. The earth is going to blow up. But you did have our 2 heroes realize, our 2 characters, not heroes yet, our 2 characters realize what was happening nearby them. It was actually a volcano that was soon going to erupt, and that is a huge problem. And so with this kingdom soon to erupt, you had Jor-El make a game plan to kind of help out the kingdom to protect itself from the volcano. The problem is that he gave his plan over to Lex Luthor. Now, for Lex Luthor, he was the advisor for the Waynes, but he hated the idea that he was outsmarted by other people. And so he took the plans that Jor-El gave him and just burned them and be all like, no, we don't need your plans at all. If anything happens at all, I will be there to save the day, not you at all. But of course, when it came time for the volcano to erupt, now the kingdom no longer has a plan to protect themselves from the volcano. And so you have Jor-El freaking out, wondering, did Luthor hand over the plans? And of course, Luthor did not. Now, for Jor-El, he begins to freak out. But you also have Lara there as well. And with the 2 of them being there, they're kind of showing off their different abilities. And you have the Waynes being very confused on what in the world is going on here. But you did have Lara hand over Kal-El to Martha and say, watch over my baby for me while we handle this situation. And so you have the elves go out of their way to use their powers to protect the kingdom from the volcano. And everything worked out. And this begun the whole idea of these 2 people becoming very loved in the kingdom. But for Lex Luthor, he was kicked out of the kingdom for what he had done. Apparently, there was something else hidden inside the kingdom that Lex Luthor found. And so once he found a special rock, it lit up very bright. And so we're kind of left to believe that the Green Man, the Green Lantern, is most likely Lex Luthor in this reality. But after that, with the elves now being heroes of the kingdom, they became very close with the Waynes. Very, very close. Because, well, it took only one special night between Jor-El and, of course, Martha as well. And that led into the birth of Bruce Wayne. Now, with that being said, the kingdom knows that Thomas was not able to give Martha a child. And also, that part right there is very important. And you'll see why here in a moment. But of course, at first, it did seem like everything was going to fall apart in both relationships until Bruce was born. And once he was born, everything changed because for Thomas, he was now technically a father. And the same thing goes for, well, Martha. And so you have the two couples be able to continue on with one another. But after a few years have passed by, we do pick up both families heading over to the home of the Amazons, Amazonia. Now, before they are able to get there, they do get attacked by Lex Luthor, or the Joker, the Green Man, a very unique combination here. Now, with that being said, this is the moment where we see the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne. Now, before Martha passed on, she tells the elves, "You are now the leader of this kingdom. Like, it's now yours." Now, you're probably wondering why not Bruce? Because remember, Bruce is not the son of Thomas Wayne, and the kingdom knows that Thomas was not able to give Martha a child. And so, with that being said, they're kind of like the people are not ready to follow Bruce because of who he actually is. They know that he comes from another man. And so it's your kingdom for now until Bruce is old enough. And I'm hoping by then the people will then be ready to take him as their king. And then she dies. And so as we go back to the present day, we pick up with Alfred and Bruce. Now, it's these two characters saying like, listen, we have to work together to fight a way to stop the war that's coming very soon between the two kingdoms. And hopefully we can find a way to stop that war from actually coming. Now, as we get into the 5th chapter of this series, we do pick up with Zala. Now, Zala is, of course, a Supergirl of this reality, but also the sister to, well, both Bruce and Kal-El. Now, this is her just finally coming back home after hearing what happened to their father. Now, for Kal-El, he's kind of like, where have you been? And she says she's been out there trying to find the Green Man. Now, we know that's not technically true all the way because she was out there doing some crazy things. But again, it's her saying like, no, I was out there trying my best to find a Green Man. And unfortunately, I was not able to find him. But now we have to jump over to Harley Quinn. Now, when we do, is Harley Quinn going over to a nearby forest? Now, when she does, we do learn that this forest belongs to, of course, Poison Ivy. Now, what they want to do is use Poison Ivy as a way to protect the kingdom of the elves from the future attacks in the Amazon and also the kingdom of the storms. Now, here's the thing. For Poison Ivy, she's not really trying to help out the elves at all, but she will because of Harley Quinn. The whole idea of these two characters being in love with one another. Really more of Poison Ivy being madly in love with Harley Quinn. And it kind of seems like Harley Quinn is not really ready to commit all her love over to Poison Ivy. But while you have the two ladies talking and coming to an agreement, that is when you have Ivy say somebody's flying nearby and heading over to the castle of the elves. And that person could be a threat to the kingdom. And so you have Ivy use her powers as a way to bring down the supposed person. And that would be Diana. Now, for me, this is kind of cool because we're finally seeing Poison Ivy being able to go up against Diana and kind of show how powerful she truly is if she's able to kind of just let loose. And so for Diana, she's not really able to take on Poison Ivy like she would in the main DC universe. Now, once you have Poison Ivy being able to capture Diana, you have Harley asking Diana, why are you here for? why in the world are you heading over to the castle of the elves? And you have Diana say, because Zala has been accused of something really bad. And of course, that thing could lead into a war between all the kingdoms. So once you have Zala and also Diana being able to sit down with one another, you did have Diana tell Zala what she'd been accused of. The whole idea that she had killed off the prince of the kingdom of storms. And so once you have Zyla hear that, she's kind of like, wait, there's no way that me have killed so young boy. Why in the world would I do that? But again, it's Diana saying what she had heard from other people, like Lois Lane. And so that whole accusation could lead into a war between all the kingdoms. And so once you have Bruce being able to find Kal-El, it's Bruce telling Kal-El two different things. The first is that, well, he found a piece of Krypton. Of course, that'd be the kryptonite he found in the last video. But also, it's Bruce saying like, hey, so you and I are technically brothers. Like, we are brothers thanks to Jor-El. Now, you would think like, okay, cool. Kal-El would try to go out of his way to accept the fact that he has a brother. Yeah, no. You had Kal-El take that piece of kryptonite, use it as a weapon to attack Bruce, and then once he does stab Bruce with the kryptonite, you did have Kal-El slam Bruce back into the ground, hoping to kill him off. But it's also Kal-El telling Bruce it's their time to rule this world. And then Kal-El leaves. Now you would think like, okay, cool. This is where Bruce is going to die. Incorrect so fast because we actually see that he is found by the Kents. Yes, the Kents in this reality are still just farmers and they find Bruce just laying there in need of help. And so you have the Kents go out of their way to actually help Bruce out. And then they take him over to his house or their house. But now we have to jump into the third chapter. Now, when we do, we pick up with Constantine. Now, remember, Constantine is inside the kingdom of storms. He was the right-hand man for Jefferson, the last king who died off in the third chapter. Killed off in the third chapter. But either way, for Constantine, he is grieving because they had lost their king. Now, we also get our first look of Tim Drake in this reality. Because remember, the Robins in this reality, they're spies. And so for Tim Drake, he was a spy for Batman in the Kingdom of Storms. Now we also learned here that for Constantine, he was madly in love with Jefferson. Now for me personally, I didn't get that in the first three chapters. I thought like, hey, they were just best friends, but that is it. But apparently they were not they. Really more Constantine was madly in love with Jefferson. Now, with all that being said, when it comes to Tim Drake being a spy, Constantine knew that Tim Drake was a spy. But at the same time, when it came to Constantine, he has been trying his best to prevent the prophecy coming into life. And so he had been giving Tim false information, or sometimes giving Tim the right information to hopefully prevent a war from happening between all the kingdoms. But either way, it's Constantine saying, well, look, all my plans had failed. So there's no point of having you around anymore, Tim Drake. And so you have Constantine go out of his way to attack Tim Drake, where you have Jennifer appear and be able to easily take out Tim Drake. Now, after doing that, you did have Jennifer and also Constantine send Tim Drake back home to the house of El. And so once you have Tim Drake being able to get back over to the Castle of Elves, he does tell everybody what he has been hearing about what Zala did to the Prince of the Kingdom of Storms. But here's the thing, because everybody else in the room right now, except for Harley Quinn, believes that the people have been lying to Tim Drake because, well, everyone apparently knew that he was a spy, or Constantine knew that he was a spy. But it's Tim saying, no, I had asked way too many people for all those people to be involved in trying to trick me. So no, everyone heard the same thing or saw the same thing. Zala had killed off the prince of the kingdom of storms. So who's lying right now? All those people are your daughter. Now really, it's Harley Quinn saying that right there. And that's Harley Quinn playing a dangerous game because it's now her saying like, hey, Zala could be lying. Zala could be a killer. Now, for Lar, she's kind of like, hey, Harley, you're playing a very dangerous game. Now, when it comes to Amanda Waller, she says, hey, listen, Diana and Zala, their bond is really unbreakable. Now, she does tell Laura this in private. She says, listen, if we are able to get rid of Hippolyta, that means Diana becomes the new queen of the Amazons. And once it's done right there, we'll have the Amazons on our side because of that bond between Zala and Diana. But now we pick up with Superman or Kal-El, and you have Kal-El ask Jimmy Olsen like, hey, have anyone seen Batman? Of course, that's a no right there because the Batman is with the Kents. But when it comes to Clark, he's going to leave right now to go somewhere else to hopefully stop this war from coming into action. Now we have to jump back over to Constantine. Now, when we do, is Constantine summoning Etrigan the demon. But here's the thing, because in this reality, the human that had bonded with the demon is, of course, Ra's al Ghul, which honestly makes a lot of sense because he is known as the demon head. But with that being said, is Constantine right now trying to make a deal with Ra's al Ghul to bring somebody back to life. So we kind of find out that Constantine wants to bring back both Jefferson and his son, the prince. But here's the problem though. Jefferson was badly injured by Zala in the earlier chapter. So is Ra's al Ghul saying like, dude, listen, I can't bring him back to life, but I can bring the prince back to life. But there's a catch though. You see, if I'm able to do this, you have to give me something in return. And of course, for Ra's al Ghul, what he wants is the Titans. Now, we have not seen the Titans yet, but apparently he wants the Titans as a way to say, I'll go ahead and bring the prince back to life for you. That is my deal. Take it or leave it. Now, getting back over to Kal-El, you have Kal-El going over to Amazonia to talk to Hippolyta. Now, here's the thing, because we have to remember that men are not allowed to set foot on the land at all. And so when you have Kal-El arrive, at first, they look at him as an enemy. Now, you do have the different Amazons fight against him, where you do have Kal-El being able to hold his own against all of them. But then you have Hippolyta up here. And you have Hippolyta not give Kal-El a chance to talk because she does pull out this weapon and she is able to stab Kal-El just like that to easily take him out. And this kind of leads into the ending of today's video because we now see Kal-El being able to meet up with Lois Lane. Now, when he does, we have to remember that this is the first time these two characters are meeting one another. Now, while you have the two characters having a conversation, we do learn that for Kal-El, he's currently being tied up with the lasso of truth. So, of course, he's not allowed to basically lie. We also learn that when it comes to Hippolyta, she had used a sword that had magic all around it. So, of course, it was able to stab Kal-El very easily. Now, once again, you have Kal-El coming here saying like, listen, I'm trying to prove that my sister did not kill anybody at all. I am trying my best to stop a war from actually happening. But you have Lois say, oh, Kal-El, you're too late. Because the forces of the Amazon, the forces of the storms, they're heading over to your kingdom right now. The war is about to begin very soon. And this Okay, so let's go ahead and get back into our coverage over Dark Knights of Steel. In this video, we're going to cover issues 7, 8, and 9. Now, Guys, let me tell you, this storyline is pretty amazing. All the twists and turns. Now, and all that being said, we do pick up with the opening page of issue number 7. Now, the opening page is really more of Bruce Wayne having this nightmare. And honestly, I kind of love the idea of this nightmare. And the reason why, because it's the book reminding us what's happening so far in this book. The whole idea that there's some kind of prophecy out there that's basically saying like, hey, listen, down the road, sooner or later, the elves are going to be able to take over the world because how powerful they truly are. We don't stand a chance at all against them. And so in this nightmare, it's the elves just going around killing off people left and right, causing chaos all over the entire world. You also have the Green Man there as well. Now remember, the Green Man is the Joker / Green Lantern / Lex Luthor. It's one heck of a combination. But with that being said, in this nightmare, it's Bruce watching everything being burned around him. And then at the very last second, he's calling out to his supposed family, but then he's killed off by them by the end of this nightmare. So once the nightmare ends, you do have Bruce Wayne wake up, except when he does wake up, he's confronted by a green dog. Now we already know this green dog is the Teen Titans, or sorry, Beast Boy, who's part of the Teen Titans. Let me say that correctly. But either way, when it comes to Bruce Wayne, he's all like, okay, crazy nightmare, but now being confronted by a green talking dog. And then you have Raven walk into the room. And so here comes the Teen Titans in this storyline. And we kind of knew that sooner or later they would play a major role in this storyline because in our last video, you had Ra's al Ghul make a deal with Constantine. Ra's al Ghul promised to bring back the son of Black Lightning back to life, which he was able to do. So the Prince of the Kingdom of Storms is alive again. But the problem is, though, he made a deal with Constantine saying, listen, I can bring the prince back, but I want something in return. I want the Titans. So we already knew sooner or later the Titans are going to play a major role in the storyline. And here they come now in this issue alone. But getting back over to Bruce Wayne, we have to remember that at the end of our last video, after being defeated by Kal-El, Bruce was found by the Kents, Martha and Jonathan Kent. But after they were able to find Bruce and realize that he was seriously injured, they took Bruce back over to their farm. Now, we also learned that they were also protecting the Titans. Starfire, Raven, Beast Boy, and also Cyborg. But here's the problem though. The Titans, they don't like Bruce at all. And honestly, they have a good reason to not like him. Because let's not forget, at the very beginning of this storyline, you had the elves going around kidnapping people who had abilities. But those people, they were being labeled as people who were magic users. They had to be locked up. They were dangerous. And so for Raven the Titans, they're kind of like, dude, listen, you had locked up so many people out there who were just different because they scared you. And I hate the idea that now you're somebody who's like us, because let's not forget, Kal-El and Bruce Wayne, they're half brothers because Jor-El, well, he has some fun time with Martha Wayne. And so it's her saying like, yeah, we know your secret. We know that you're like us, somebody with abilities. And matter of fact, when it comes to Jonathan Kent, he said it was obvious because, again, the kingdom knew that Thomas Wayne was not able to get Martha Wayne pregnant. And so, of course, when it came to Bruce being born, they were like, that's weird. Where did Bruce come from? Everyone knew he had to come from the elves. Something happened between them. And so it's Kent saying like, we already knew everything about you, but now it seems like you had just found out about your dark secret origin. But while you had everybody talking to one another, you have Starfire bring in Richard Grayson. Now, in this reality, the Robins are kind of like spies, but also kind of like scouts as well. But at the end of our last video, when it came to Kal-El defeating Bruce Wayne, and you had the kids take away Batman, help heal him up, well, the thing was, for the kingdom, they're like, hey, where's Batman? We have no idea where Batman is at. So the kingdom was on red alert to find Bruce Wayne. And so they used the Robins to hopefully find Bruce. And luckily, Richard did. But here's the thing, because you now have Richard seeing that it's Bruce Wayne surrounded by the different members of the Titans. And he looks at them as demons because, again, they have abilities. If you have some kind of ability, you're being labeled as a magic user. Now, with all that being said, is Bruce Wayne kind of realizing here that it was wrong to hunt down all those different people who just had ability, because now he's just like them. He now understands what they're going through somewhat. But why have everyone talking to one another? You have Bruce Wayne realize that somebody is trying to pay them a visit. And that would be Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul. Now, we learn very quickly here that Talia and Bruce Wayne, they have met in the past. But with that being said, is Bruce knowing everything about Ra's al Ghul and his League of Shades? Now, every single member of his league are different people who were put in the Lazarus River. So people who had died in the past being brought back to life somewhat by the Lazarus River. But with all that being said, you do have Bruce tell the Kents and the Titans to stay back because for Ra's al Ghul and his forces, they are a dangerous force. Now, let's not forget that for Ra's al Ghul, that he had bonded with, well, Etrigan, the demon of this reality. So for Ra's al Ghul, he's more powerful than usual. But for Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul, at first, it does seem like they should be able to easily take down Bruce Wayne and the Titans. But Bruce is half Kryptonian. He has the powers of Kal-El. And so he is a very dangerous opponent. So he was able to take down the forces of Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul with the help of the Kents, but also the Titans as well. Now, for Talia, she realized they gotta go ahead and retreat, but she says, you can't watch over the kids all the time because right now, Bruce Wayne, you have to worry about the war coming for your kingdom. And let's not forget, for Bruce, he has no idea what's been happening while he had been missing. The whole idea that right now you have the Kingdom of Storms and also the Amazons heading over to the Kingdom of Elves to begin a major war. And so for Bruce, he's all like, what in the world is she talking about? And so once you have Richard Grayson being able to explain to Bruce what he has been missing, you have Bruce realize he needs to head back home. Now, I kind of love the ending of this book because it's the kids kind of telling us that when it came to their past, they took somebody else in and raised that child, somebody who was a man of two worlds, somebody who had a lot of power like Bruce Wayne. And automatically we learn it is Aquaman. But here's the catch. Aquaman does not appear in this storyline at all. He appears in the sequel series. But it's kind of cool that kids are out there helping out different people who have different types of abilities. But for the kids, they realize that Bruce Wayne is the key to stop the war, to save all those innocent lives that could be lost in this big war coming very soon. But as we get into issue number 8, we do pick up with the Green Man. Now, the Green Man again is Lex Luthor, who's also the Joker of this reality. But apparently, the Lantern Ring is telling him it's time. It's time to kill off this age of people. So we're kind of seeing that a war is coming very soon, and the Green Man is going to play a very important role in that big war. But now we jump over to Queen Anissa. Now, Anissa is the new queen of the Kingdom of Storms, and we see her meeting up with Hippolyta. Now, these two kingdoms are going to work together to fight against the elves, but at the same time, they're kind of hoping in the possibility they can work out some kind of deal because they hate the idea of war. Now, let's not forget, the only reason why you have Queen Anissa being the queen of, well, the Kingdom of Storms because, well, Black Lightning died in an earlier chapter of this storyline. But you can kind of see that she also hates the idea of going to war against the elves. But while you have the two queens talking to one another, you did have the two advisors meet up. Lois Lane, the advisor for the Amazons, and Constantine, the advisor for the Kingdom of Storms. Now, for Lois Lane, it's her saying like, something's not right here. She feels like they're all being played, that somebody behind the scenes is pulling their strings to cause this big war. And the question is right now, who and why? Now, for Constantine, he's kind of like, there's no way that you actually believe that because let's not forget, the man was madly in love with Black Lightning of this reality. But at the same time, he saw Zala-El, Supergirl of this reality, kill off his king right in front of him. King Jefferson, Black Lightning. So he's kind of like, no, there's no way that we're being controlled by somebody behind the scenes. Like, no, the elves have to go because, again, I saw the prophecy. I know what's going to come down the road. So let's go ahead, go to war, and kill them off for what they have done to my king and everyone else in this world. But now we have to jump over to the dungeon right underneath the castle of El. And we pick up with Green Arrow and also Black Canary. Now, this is Green Arrow and Black Canary meeting for the first time. And honestly, because these two characters always fall in love in almost every single reality, once again, it's these two characters falling in love in this one as well. But for Green Arrow, he's able to break her free from the muzzle used to keep her quiet because, again, Black Canary sonic scream. But the thing is Green Arrow kind of realizing that once again, the elves have taken somebody into their dungeon because they have been labeled as a magic user, because they have some kind of ability. But either way, it's now the two characters plotting to work together to break free from the castle's dungeon and hopefully get far away from this place. But now we have to jump over to Hob Forest. Now, Hob Forest does take place right around the Castle of El. It's our last line of defense, and I'll explain why here in a moment. But you do have the forces of the Kingdom Storms and the Amazons making their way over to the Castle of El. But while trying to do that, they have to go through Hob Forest, where they are then confronted by Amanda Waller and Harley Quinn. Now, this is both sides just trying their best to work out some kind of deal because they both hate the idea of going to war where innocent people will most likely die in that war. But the problem is the Amazons and the Kingdom Storms, they want Jor-El, the current queen of the kingdom. And they're kind of like, no, you cannot have our queen. Let's try to work out a different deal. Unfortunately, they're not able to. So the war will happen most likely once you have the Amazons and the Kingdom Storms make their way over to the Castle of El. And so you have Amanda Waller and Harley Quinn retreat. Now, for Constantine, he's kind of like, listen, that's their general. Go ahead and take her in as a prisoner because if we do that, then we're good then. Go ahead and lock her up. That will break down their forces. But for Hippolyta, that's not right. It's a bad thing to do when it comes to honoring how things are done in this world. Now, with that being said, you do have Constantine try to attack Amanda Waller and Harley Quinn. Now, here is the reason why I say this forest is kind of like the last line of defense for the Castle of El. Because this forest is being controlled by Poison Ivy. Because remember, in this reality, Poison Ivy is madly in love with Harley Quinn. She's doing all she can right now to protect the woman she loves. And also Amanda Waller as well. But like, hey, it's Waller. Either way, while you have the Amazons and also the forces of the Kingdom Storms trying their best to fight against Poison Ivy, they get saved at the very last second by the Green Man, Lex Luthor of this reality. He knocks out Poison Ivy to allow the Amazons, to allow the Kingdom Storms to continue to march on over to the Castle of El. But you do have Waller and Harley Quinn make it back over to the castle, and they do inform their queen like, hey, we were not able to stop them from coming this way because they wanted you. And we said no. So now we're going to fight. Now, for the queen here, she's like, no, I don't want you guys to fight for me. Like, let them take me. But it's Waller saying, no, you have to understand that we are a very powerful force here. We can hold our own. So here we are. It's Amanda Waller telling her man to get ready to fight against the forces who stand around their kingdom. Except at the very last second, you have Zala and also Diana get in the way, saying, no, let's try to find a peaceful way out of this. Because right now, the only reason why this war is happening is because you had Jefferson kill off Jor-El, but you also had Zala kill off the prince of the kingdom of storms. And so it's Zala saying, I didn't do that. And so let's try our best here to work out some kind of deal to make sure that nobody dies today. And so when you have Diana and also Zyla confront Anissa and Hippolyta, we also get reminded here that let's not forget, Constantine made a deal with Raja Ghul to bring back the Prince of the Kingdom Storm. So he's there right now, but kind of hidden away because no one truly knows except for Constantine that the Prince is alive again. Because if people find out, they'll know that some kind of dark magic was used to bring him back to life. But it's Constantine saying, you said that you wanted to kill Zala, so go ahead and use your powers to do that. And so let's not forget that each kid of Black Lightning, they have their own kind of elemental power. And so for the prince here, he has the ability to make it rain, to make it flood. And so right now, he's making it flood inside the body of Zala, making her drown right there in front of everyone. And so you have everyone freaking out because Zala is dying right in front of them at this exact moment. And so you didn't have Queen Laura appear. And when she does appear, you have her come down very hard, leading into a shockwave, throwing the prince off and kind of stopping him from being able to kill off Zala. But after doing that, it's more of Hippolyta still wanting to have some kind of deal done to bring peace between the two parties here. Except for Laura, she's kind of like, you know what? I love the idea of what you're saying right now, that no one should die here. But here's my thing. What is the fun in that? And so you didn't have Laura go ahead and use her powers to kill off Hippolyta just like that. But as we get into the third and final chapter of this storyline, we do pick up with Lois Lane going over to Kal-El because remember, he was captured in an earlier chapter by the Amazons. So it's Lois Lane saying, hey, listen, I need to use you as a way to hopefully stop the war that's happening right now between all the different kingdoms. So you do have her being able to set him free. But let's not forget that earlier for Lois Lane, she believed there's somebody behind the scenes kind of pulling all the different strings. And she's right because you didn't have Kal-El fly over to where the war is happening at now. Except you have Laura flying away after she had just killed off Hippolyta. And you have Kal-El try to stop her, but his mom sends him back down flying to the ground. And he's like, why in the world did my mom just hit me so hard for? Except he lands right near Diana. Now for Diana, this is a woman who is broken right now because she just lost her mother. And so she also attacks Kal-El as well. And so for Waller, that's it. It's time for war. Let's go. And this war is kind of cool because while you have everyone fighting against one another, you didn't have the Green Man arrive, the Joker of this reality. And he's just there to add chaos to the battle. But while that's happening, you have Waller tell her men, go ahead and attack everyone you see. Now, one of her archers is clearly Deadshot. You could not tell me it's not Deadshot at all. But either way, it's still right now fighting against one another. But you did have Bruce Wayne arrive by riding a dragon. Now, of course, this is Beast Boy being a dragon, but either way, Bruce Wayne arrives. Now, for Kal-El, he's all like, oh my God, Bruce, it's good to see you. But you have Bruce saying, you tried to kill me earlier, brother. Now, this scene right here kind of shows us that something's going on behind the scenes because for Kal-El, he's like, why in the world did you call me brother? I tried to kill you? What are you talking about? And the thing is, Bruce told Kal-El in an earlier chapter. And so for Lois Lane, she hears this and she runs over to Constantine. And she's like, Constantine, something is going on here. Like, you know, that there's somebody behind the scenes controlling us. We have to work together to figure out who in the world it could be. And for Constantine, he kind of realized, yeah, Lois Lane is right. Okay, Lois, let's go ahead and work together here to figure out what exactly is going on. Now, inside the dungeon underneath the castle of El, you now have Laura just going around killing off people left and right. You're kind of like, yo, something has snapped in her mind. But for Oliver and also Black Canary, they realize they got to dip out. And so he tells her, use your screen in that direction right there. And when she does, of course, it does do massive damage, but it gives our heroes a chance to try to escape. Except while trying to escape, they run into an armory, being able to pick up some gear. But when they make it outside the castle, they realize, oh snap, the war has popped off. Like everyone's fighting against one another. What exactly is going on here? Now they're trying their best to get away, but the problem is they're being followed by Laura, and she looks very angry. She's like, no, you gotta die. I'm here to kill you guys off here and now. And this leads into a very big moment, because then the real Laura appears. You're like, wait, there's two Lauras. That means one of them has to be a shapeshifter. Now, I believed at first it was Clayface. I'm like, hey, it gotta be Clayface in some kind of way. Like, okay, which Clayface is it? It's not Clayface at all. Matter of fact, it's a White Martian, because you have Green Arrow get a fire because Alfred said, hey, use fire on that one right there. And so you have Oliver get a fire arrow, shoot it, and being able to hit the fake Laura. And of course, going to find out it's a White Martian. And their weakness is fire. Now, you do have the White Martian being able to get away. But the question is right now, how in the world Alfred knew to use fire against the White Martian? And so we kind of find out this is not Alfred like the good old Alfred we all know and love. No, instead, this is actually Martian Manhunter. I'm all like, yo, this storyline just got even crazier. I'm loving where the storyline is going. So in our next video, the last 3 chapters of the main series is going to be used to kind of wrap everything up. And so with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later. Okay, so it's time for us to go ahead and get back into our coverage over Dark Knights of Steel, the final video for this series. And man, the last 3 chapters are really amazing for this series. And guys, I'm telling y'all should love this book. It's really amazing. Now, with that being said, as we get into issue number 10, we're kind of picking up with the idea of us seeing basically all 3 armies kind of realizing that they have been played. That really, behind the scenes, you had the White Martians being able to trick everybody to fight against one another. But at the end of our last video, we had also learned that Alfred was not really Alfred, but really Martian Manhunter. And so for everyone, they're kind of like, what in the world is going on here? And so for Diana especially, she wants answers, because in our last video, we had saw the death of her mother. Hippolyta was killed off by basically a White Martian. And for Diana, she has the right to be mad because, again, yes, her mom just died, but everyone else had time to grieve when their parents had died. For Diana, it was only an hour ago. Now, for Bruce Wayne, he does go out of his way to protect John Jones. He's kind of like, hey, listen, even though he is a green alien creature, we should hear him out, because for Bruce Wayne, he knows John Jones as Alfred. They had that bond over the years. And so you have our heroes use the lasso of truth to kind of realize that he's not a bad guy, that really he's a good person and he's here to help out. But the biggest person to get played by all of this is really more John Constantine, because it was Constantine who had believed in a prophecy that bad things were coming for the world because of the Jor-Els and also the Green Man. But in reality, his mind was being played with by the White Martians. Now, with all that being said, you have Queen Anissa find out that her brother Jacob is alive. And remember, Jacob died early on, but when it came to Constantine, he made a deal with Ra's al Ghul to bring Jacob back to life. And so for Anissa, she's kind of like, what in the world did you do? Like, how in the world is my little brother alive again? But you have Queen Laura say, it's time for us to have a conversation. Queens only. So Queen Laura, Queen Anissa, and Queen Diana. But here's the thing, because for Waller, she hates the idea of Queen Diana and Queen Anissa being allowed inside the castle. But it's Queen Laura saying, we have no choice here. We need to meet to figure out what exactly to do when it comes to the White Martians. Now, for me, the next page is really kind of like, I don't know, man, it's good it feels, because you have Diana being very upset about the idea of her mother being dead, which honestly, she has the right to be upset. But let's not forget that in this reality, she was dating Supergirl. And so you have Supergirl stop by like, hey, are you okay? You know, I came to see you. But it's really more her realizing that her lover needs her. Like her other half needs her in her corner at this moment right now, because she had just lost her mother. And now she's the queen of the Amazons. Now, for me, the next moment is really cool because, okay, you have all three queens begin to interrogate John Jones. Like, hey, we know everything about you. But in the middle of their interrogation, you didn't have Harley walk into the room. Now, for Harley, she said, hey, listen, there's somebody else who wants to be involved in this conversation. And that would be Poison Ivy. Now, Poison Ivy, she's saying she's also a queen of the forest. And so you have her go out of her way to create her own chair, her own throne to sit in, to have a part in this interrogation with John Jones. And I love that so much. But now we kind of dive into the origin of the Martian Manhunter in this reality, because he tells us that back on his home world, everything was peaceful. It was a beautiful planet, most likely on Mars once again. But for Martian Manhunter, he had a family, right? And the whites and the greens, they kind of lived together, but they also kind of were divided. But then there was one guy known as Protex. Now, when it came to Protex, he was a white Martian who did not believe in harmony at all. He kind of believed the greens were inferior and should be, you know, wiped out or be as slaves. And so you didn't have the white Martians try their best to enslave the green Martians. But then you had the Green Martians begin to fight back. Now, for the Green Martians, they realized that they weren't great warriors like the White Martians were, but they were great scientists. So you had the Green Martians go out of their way to create weapons to use against the White Martians. The problem was that, well, as the war went on, both sides lost a lot of people. But for Protex, he did not give up. He still believed in the whole idea the Green Martians should be killed off. And so for Martian Manhunter, it's him telling us that the war just continue on. You have Protex continue on to hunt down the Green Martians, to kill them off left and right. And for Martian Manhunter, he lost his entire family. He had no choice but to go ahead and bury his own son. But once he realized that his world was completely destroyed, he said, you know what? It's time for me to leave. And so you had the Martian Manhunter just go ahead and leave and head over to Earth, where of course he had pretended to be Alfred for a very long time. Now, there is a catch to his story. The Waynes knew about him. The Waynes knew that Alfred was a Martian, a green Martian, but they hid his secret. And the reason why? Because of the prophecy. In the prophecy, they said the Green Man, but we were kind of left to believe the Green Man was Lex Luthor with a Green Lantern ring who basically became the Joker. But no, that's not the case at all. The Green Man, the prophecy, is, well, Martian Manhunter. Now, with all that being said, you have the queens realize who their target is, like who they need to go after, and that will be Protex. But getting over to Lex Luthor, you have Lex Luthor talking to his Green Lantern. Now, for Lex, he had no idea that technically he was working with the White Martians. He had no idea. But it's the White Martians saying like, hey, we are done with you. And so they reappear behind him, rip his arm off to take the green ring and drop him to his death. And so it's kind of like, okay, the White Martians now have a Green Lantern ring. That could be an actual problem. But as we get into the next chapter, we pick up with Constantine, Lois Lane, and also Harley Quinn. Now, these three characters, they were the advisors for all three kingdoms, but it was Constantine who had messed up the most. But I kind of love the idea of Lois Lane and Harley Quinn being like, hey, Constantine, even though you did screw up, we got to keep going. We got to work together to hopefully bring down the White Martians. So you have our three characters right here make a plan to hopefully defeat the White Martians. But now we have to get into the big moment. The whole idea of Kal-El and Bruce Wayne having this conversation, because Bruce Wayne found out a long time ago that basically he was the half-brother to Kal-El, but technically he never did tell Kal-El that he was his brother. He thought he did, but in reality, it was a White Martian. So now you have the two boys being able to come and say, we're brothers. And it's kind of cool to see. But the problem is right now, how in the world did the White Martians were able to stab Bruce Wayne if he is Kryptonian? And you have Bruce realize it's because of a green stone. And of course, it was kryptonite. With kryptonite, it's a weakness for Kryptonians. And so for Bruce, that's why he was able to get stabbed by, well, a White Martian. And really, as we jump over to the White Martians, what they're doing right now is pretty wild, because you have them going out of their way to create weapons made out of kryptonite as a way to use against the El family to bring down Bruce, Kal-El, Supergirl, and also Lara as well. And so now they're them saying we are technically ready to go to war against the Els. But you didn't have protests here that right now the Els have a prisoner, and that will be John Jones. And so for protests, he knows that he needs to go out of his way to kill off John Jones before John Jones is able to tell the Els what is the weakness to the White Martians, how to defeat them. Now, when Protest goes over to see Martian Manhunter to basically kill him off, it's the perfect chance for him to actually do it, because Martian Manhunter is still being tied up by the lasso of truth. And for some reason, the lasso of truth blocks out the powers of Martian Manhunter. So for Protest, this is the perfect time to go ahead and get rid of the one person he could not truly stand at all. But the thing is, Martian Manhunter still has the ability to communicate with his mind. And so while you have Protest getting ready to kill off Martian Manhunter, he was able to call in Bruce Wayne and also Kal-El. They just barge right into the room. Now they know that the White Martian's weakness is fire. So with them using their heat vision, they were able to damage Protest pretty well. But you do have Protest being able to get away. But now they know they need to find a way to protect the kingdom, to make sure no more White Martians will have the ability to sneak into their kingdom to kill off their leaders one by one. And so what you have all three kingdoms do together, they put literally a ring of fire around the castle of El to protect the entire place. So now the White Martians cannot really try to sneak into the actual kingdom at all. And so now it seems like the kingdom is well protected, but we now kind of lead into a conversation between Bruce and also, well, Alfred/John Jones. Because it's Bruce Wayne coming out of his way to tell John Jones that he fully understands why John Jones hid his true identity. It's all because what we saw in the earlier parts of this storyline, where you had the elves going out of their way to collect people, to lock up people who had magical abilities or being labeled as monsters as well. And so if John Jones has showed his true identity, then most likely he would also get locked up. But as Bruce also saying, when my parents died, you were there for me. You were basically like another father for me. And I'm like, yes, because no matter what, in almost every single universe, Alfred is like another father for Bruce Wayne. And so in this reality, even though Alfred is John Jones, it's Bruce saying, you're still a father to me because you were there to help me, protect me, and guide me. But after that, you then have Bruce and Kal-El go out of their way to, well, release almost all the prisoners that the El family had caught over the years. Now, if you were a murderer who also had magical abilities, nah, you stayed locked up. But if you were somebody who just minding your business, but you had magical abilities, you got locked up, guess what? You are now free, including Green Arrow. And really, when it came to Green Arrow, he was tricked into believing that Jor-El had to die. And so for Kal-El saying, even though you did kill off my father, you were tricked into killing my father off. And so this is me giving you a second chance. And so now Green Arrow will help them out to fight against the White Martians in the final war. But there is one person who's very upset about the idea of all those prisoners being released, and that would be Waller, Amanda Waller, because she was the general for the Elves this entire time. She's kind of like, hey, this is a bad idea. Now, for me, this is kind of funny because you have Harley say, hey, listen, so your queen gave you a command. So guess what? Get over it. Now, for Laura, she does talk to Waller like, hey, listen, it's the best idea to help protect our kingdom from, the White Martians. But it's also Laura saying, I understand why you're so upset. The whole idea because you had lost so many people in the previous battle. Don't worry. We're trying our best to make sure that you don't lose any more men in the next battle to come down the road. But after that, you didn't have Laura take her two kids, Kal-El and Zala-El, over to where that Jor-El and Laura had buried their spaceship. And the reason why, because to retrieve an item, to take that item and turn it into not a weapon, but something to use against the White Martians. And that would be a teleporter, to teleport the White Martians over to the Phantom Zone. So it's kind of like, okay, everything is coming together right now for the big battle to come. But there's still one more twist we have to get into in the last part of this chapter. Because now we pick up with Amanda Waller meeting up with the White Martians alongside with Deadshot. Now, when she walks into the cave of the White Martians, they're kind of like, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and attack her. One of them tries, that person dies, just like that. And the reason why, because she made a deal with a demon. And so right now, she is protected by a spell that releases Hellfire. And so that White Martian gone just like that. But here is the thing. We learned here that the White Martians had someone inside the entire time. And that would be Amanda Waller. She had been trying to help the White Martians take down the Elves as a way to protect her people. And so right now it's her saying, I have a plan that could help you bring down your enemies, but also making sure that you guys leave me and my men alone. And so as we get into the final chapter of this storyline, we actually pick up with Amanda Waller meeting with Protex. Now, this is Amanda Waller telling him that she has a plan to make sure the flames go out to allow the White Martians to attack the Castle of El. And so right now, it's them getting ready for the final war. But now we have to jump over to the advisors. Now, when we do, it's really more the advisors coming to the queens of the kingdoms to say, hey, listen, we have a plan that could possibly work. And honestly, it might. But here's the thing, though. We don't get the chance to learn about this plan until later on. But for Constantine, he's the one kind of hoping the plan does work out, because if it does, he'll get all the credit for the work. And so right now, it's them saying this plan should work. This plan should bring down the White Martians. But now it's time for us to go ahead and get into the war part of the storyline, because, okay, you have Captain Cold, who secretly works for Amanda Waller, used his powers as a way to put out all the flames that was around the castle. And so with that happening, the White Martians now have the ability to attack the castle. Now at first, they try to hide their best in smoke, but you do have Black Canary being able to blow away the smoke, revealing the White Martians heading towards the castle with their weapons ready to go. The final war has truly begun now at this exact moment. Now, I love the next page because you have John Jones saying like, hey, I want to be Alfred. The reason why, because you knew me Alfred longer than you did as me being John Jones. But you have Bruce say, be who you want to be. But either way, you're staying here because I'm going out there to fight against your enemies, but to get payback for what they did to your world, but also our world as well. So you do have Kal-El, Zala-El, Diana, and Bruce leave to go to war. And it's kind of cool because as the war goes on, you do have our heroes being able to hold their own against the White Martians, but they have a plan, right? And so you do have our heroes being able to kind of push most of the White Martians into one certain location. But when they do, it's kind of like, okay, cool. Let's go ahead and use the plan or part of the plan to hopefully kill off most of the Martians. So this involves the two daughters of Black Lightning to use their powers together to hopefully bring in a volcano. So just like that, a volcano appears, it just erupts. And when it does, you have White Martians just dropping left and right because you have lava just falling out of the sky. Molten rocks falling out of the sky, killing off Martians left and right. Now, for Jacob, the youngest child of Black Lightning, he does use his powers as a way to protect the castle by making it rain all around the entire castle. So again, this plan works out very well, killing off a huge portion of White Martians to allow our heroes to get the edge over them. And you have Diana being able to get her payback against the one White Martian who had killed off her mother. And so right now we're seeing Diana just going out in the battlefield, killing off people left and right, but being able to locate the one White Martian who did kill off her mother. And you have Diana say, you know what? It's time for you to go ahead and die. And she cuts off the head of that White Martian just like that. Now, the battle does get wrapped up with Laura being able to pull out the Phantom Zone teleporter to teleport Protex and the last few survivors of the White Martians over into the Phantom Zone to properly take care of them. So now they're off the board completely. But now we have to get into the sad moment because we do pick up with Amanda Waller. Now for Alfred, he realized that it was Amanda Waller who was working with the White Martians. And so it's him calling her out like, hey, I know what you did. I know that you were working with them. Now you do have Alfred touch her, and that's the problem right there because she is protected by Hellfire still. And so of course, Alfred, or John Jones, begins to burn right then and there. And so you have Bruce realize what's happening to Alfred. He runs over to him to only see his second father die right in front of his eyes. Now for Amanda Waller, she kills off Deadshot, making it seem like she was completely innocent, that it was Deadshot who killed off Alfred, to basically say like, hey, I didn't make sure that my cover is not blown. And so just like that, Alfred is gone and Amanda Waller is technically in the clear. Now, the ending of the book is really more of all three kingdoms coming together. You do have Lois Lane kind of show that she may be interested into Kal-El, so there could be a potential relationship over there. But you also have the idea of the possibility of Bruce Wayne maybe down the road being able to, you know, take over the kingdom once and for all. But for right now, Laura will be the one in charge. But you do have all three kingdoms being able to form a league, form a union, because they have signed a treaty. And so now this is a whole new beginning for this reality. Now, there is a sequel series that really does focus more on Deathstroke, and we can actually cover that series in a future video. But for right now, this is the end for Dark Knights of Steel. So I do hope you enjoy our coverage over this series. See y'all next time. Later.